Salutations, nerds! We're watching the MCU and all of its glory.
I think every time he says that, it's more like MCU.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome back to Phased Out, our Marvel.
He really does it for the good ones, though.
Our Marvel watch through, our series designed to make Nick here hate us.
I think this is going to be the one. I feel like this might be the one.
I don't hate it as much as I thought I would.
I don't hate it.
We'll see.
I don't like it either.
Regardless, we are off Slate Media. I'm Jake. That's Jared. And that's Nick. Today, we are going to get, you and I are going to get real phased out, man. We're getting real phased out. We're talking about Civil War. And, let's be honest about this.
The unadaptable comic book.
Yeah, still remains that way, isn't it?
Yeah. The comic book. They just kind of snagged the title.
So I'm just gonna drop this here. There are no stakes in this movie. Everything
there
is
are all the stakes in this movie if you care about the characters.
I don't though. I
do though.
They haven't done a good job of making.
Really?
You care.
They haven't made you care about the
Steve
Rogers' relationship with the Starks and the animosity that Tony has for him because his father loved him more?
Nope.
Because they've been seeding that for many a movie, Jake.
I know.
I think very well as well.
As we know, though, many people who spread seeds often don't spread them well.
Sometimes
that's a weird way to put that.
We'll get there again.
Nick, sometimes I just want to punch you in your perfect teeth.
One of my favorite lines and deliveries in the
line.
MCU. It's so good. That whole scene is so good. But we've talked about this before. My favorite stuff in the comics and in these movies are when we just get our heroes in a room talking to each other. And that is a lot of what this movie is.
Yeah.
In rooms, on streets, at airports, they're just chatting it up the whole movie.
So before we say anything else, we should all say which team we are personally to our listeners, just to get it out of the way now.
So are we going by just who we believe was in the right?
Yes.
Or which team we think is cooler?
Are you say which one is the right?
Because I have different opinions depending on
which team is right. Because I am Team Tony.
Jake?
Team Tony.
I'm Team Cap.
I knew it.
He is.
A lot of people are. We are in the minority.
I think Tony has a good point. But when you look at the history of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the fact that they were infiltrated by Hydra and they were running the strings this whole time, why would you trust yourselves being controlled by another government agency that also might have Hydra people in it?
But for a
that
man,
also might manipulate what you're doing and where you can go, and then they have complete control to lock you up if you don't do what they say.
But for a man called Captain America, he sure doesn't believe in the checks and balances.
I think he believes in them too much, and his faith in America has been shaken. So he's holding on to his ideas from the 1940s, which are no longer the ideals of America, or at least the outwardly expressed ideals of America, because those were never really the ideals of America.
It's fair.
Yeah.
That's my take.
It's one of those things where it's like, this is what it always boils down to when people who care too much about this movie or talk about this movie like we are.
I've also never cared that much about this movie until this moment.
Yeah, I wasn't referencing you. I'm just saying, whenever people discuss this movie, it's what team are you and why. And the majority of people, it's Team Cap because they like Cap better than Tony. Because Tony is a douche this whole movie. But
I like Tony better in this movie, weirdly. But I like
Jake said it best back when we watched this together.
Is this going to be another thing that I said and probably think that you originated?
I don't know. I remember you just saying, because I brought up, I wasn't really playing devil's advocate in the moment. It was more of just, this is what people say to defend Cap's side. And then you said, Tony literally had a mother of a dead person stare into his face and say, I blame you, and there's nothing you can do. How do you recover from that? And I said, yeah, that it doesn't excuse behavior. It's more of this is why he's acting like this.
If you're any other person, you behave like, okay, but the rest of the world is still here. I understand this sucks. That's a tragedy for your son and you. But otherwise, we would all be gone if we didn't do what we did. Instead, he has so much trauma and issues outside of that.
Yeah,
he uses it to control the rest of his friends.
I think Actually, trauma and issues is more.
I feel like I'm running PR for Captain America.
I think trauma and normal and trauma and issues is more normal person than I'm able to react. Oh, well, if your son wouldn't have died, the rest of the world would have died.
Yeah,
How is that argument played in any other movie? We're gonna sacrifice.
Sorry.
What?
I missed your question. I zoned out for like half a second.
How is the argument of we're going to let this person die so that the rest can die played in every other movie it's used in? Not well.
Yeah.
So,
But what about these movies? Before this point. We saved the day, though. We didn't let the entire world get destroyed.
don't get me wrong. I understand the stupidness of the Accords, but I just feel like watching it this time.
And I don't disagree with you.
I know. But watching it this time, it's very clear to me that Bucky is in the wrong. And Bucky is admitting to being like, I need to be controlled. I need to be this. I wasn't in control, but I remember everybody. And yeah, I did those things. They were bad things. So why is Cap trying so hard to protect him? I used to be Captain America because Captain America at a point in my life was my favorite trilogy within this whole universe. Yeah. So I used to be Team Cap, and then when Tony was like, "You didn't tell me about my mom," I was always kind of like, "Is it really that big of a deal that he didn't tell you that?" But then like putting together him being stared down in the face like in like the reverse position with that mom at the beginning, like it makes sense, like because of the trauma and like the the whole my left arm is numb and is that normal, like, and actually throughout the whole MCU the holding of his arm that he does,
and
like,
rubbing his
like
wrist and arms the whole time,
reframing Tony's story. Like I said, it's Tony's universe and everybody else is just existing in it, like reframing that this watch through. Captain America following his ideals to that extent, like I feel like this could have been solved just by talking.
100%.
And let's be
100%.
And let's be fair. Let's be fair about this. If you let Tony beat the hell out of Bucky, he's not gonna die. So much worse has so much worse has happened to Bucky than what Iron Man would do to him, because eventually we all have that. Eventually, all the heroes have the response where I am enraged by X. Mm-hmm. But eventually, when you are doing the vengeance thing, your brain kicks in and goes, "Oh, I need to stop." I do feel like that would have happened. Now, I get that they needed it to go a certain way so that Infinity War could happen. And Infinity War, in my opinion, from what I remember, is great. I get that. And it's much more comic booky than Winter Soldier was, which I love. But ultimately, it's not greater than the sum of its parts, in my opinion.
There's a lot there.
There was a lot.
I don't remember most of my points I was going to address throughout that. One of, I'm trying to think of the thing that you said that I wanted to address, but it was like one of the first things you said. Do you remember one of the first things you said?
I used to be Team Cap. Bucky admitted to being in the wrong the entire time.
The whole reason why Cap is kind of going after Bucky the whole time.
To protect him, even though he was...
There's a kill order on him. Outside of Iron Man, there's a shoot-on-sight order on him. That's why he's going so hard.
Which is funny, because then they end up capturing him and not killing him.
Yes, but that's because he's also with... You got T'Challa there, and you got... Rhodey's the one that captures him, technically. Not the government of this place they were in who had the kill
So
order.
if he would have just signed, he could have just... They all could have just brought him in together.
100%.
Alive.
Yep.
All he had to do was sign. And what did Tony say? Like, they're not perfect, but they can be amended. This is just to get... What did he say? He said something like foot in the door or something.
Yeah, to get our foot in the door. Yeah.
Because he's right. They need to be put in check. Because I remember we were talking about Ultron a couple weeks ago. Yeah, there's a lot of destruction that it's not like this is caused by a thing we're fighting. It's literally like, let's grab this person and destroy something to stop them. And it's like,
yeah,
there is so much there's so much destruction and collateral. Like
I do agree with the internet on that, though. How dare General Ross not bring Harlem into the equation? Because that was his problem. He created the abomination and destroyed Harlem.
That is
true. He did not bring that destruction up. I wonder why. Maybe because he was the cause. That's one of my favorite things. The internet is like, there was another like real big destruction thing happening in New York around that time. And there's a reason you didn't put it on that screen, Ross.
I will say that I get the sort of sentimentality of
Go ahead.
Of like, you do all this destruction, but we save you. But you destroyed all of this, but like we had to. Imagine what would have happened if we hadn't. Like, I get that. I just think that I agree with the idea that these are a step that can be changed as the need arises, and you can argue back and forth about we shouldn't be talking about politics in an MCU movie.
This is the movie to talk about politics. Like, this is the series, the Captain America ones, the political series.
I remember having a conversation about this movie with an old colleague of ours, because he was hard Team Cap, and I remember I said like they should just sign, because then the first time something bad happens and they get there late and people have died and they save the day, they can use it as counterweight to be like, hey, look what happened because you held us up. And then his thing was, well, then people will die. I'm like, people are going to die either way. Yes, a little more die, but in that one instance, that gives them leeway to amend it to where they can basically function as a vigilante, but they're also a vigilante under someone.
I'm very confused about this. Well, not very confused, but I'm confused about the Sokovia thing, because I'm pretty sure they said that all the civilians made it to the boats.
In the city.
That
was floating.
Were they not in the...
And also...
people on the ground.
Yeah.
Died.
And the...
and all the...
area. He was crushed by a building, he says.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So when things were going awry before the city dropped.
And it could have also been, as soon as the city lifted, some buildings fell, he could have been crushed immediately before they started clearing out the cities.
Well, because I was thinking about that as we were watching Age of Ultron, and they showed it, like, all the stuff, like, falling into the water. And I was like, oh, that's how they're going to do this. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it's just one of the buildings fell, hit him. They just didn't save him thing. I remember rubbing up against that the first couple times I watched this. I was like, well, I mean, they made a pretty big point of clearing that city out throughout that entire third act.
I don't like the argument that, oh, yeah, you just leave this all for... No, they work pretty hard to save people. Like,
but I also understand like why the universe wouldn't see that, because they're not seeing what we're seeing. They're seeing news coverage of buildings falling and all the casualties. They're not seeing them trying to rescue every single person in the city. So I get why the world would be like, nah, you're causing people to die.
Well, yeah, but then you got Vision over there going, you know, our power and sight's challenge. Like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, I just, again, talking about politics in an MCU movie, I just see Cap's pursuit of Bucky as reckless and irresponsible.
Yeah,
he's in love.
Well,
yeah,
also,
no,
that's it.
The way I always
it's the second gayest movie in the MCU.
The way I always look at it is, we got to remember this is a Captain America movie.
Mm.
What is happening in the Captain America movies? The first one, he's brought in by S.H.I.E.L.D. He's working hand in hand with them, fighting Hydra.
And Bucky's barely a character.
But we know he's his best friend, and he's following him through everything.
Yeah. Second movie.
We find out that the thing that he put all of his faith in, the thing that he trusts more than anything in the world, the U.S. government, is being shadow run by the people that he's been fighting, the only people he's ever fought in war.
And Bucky's barely a character.
But we know that he's working for them. So in this movie, you go into it, you have Bucky.
Who's barely a character.
I actually remedied my last week. I think this is my favorite version of Bucky. Where you don't know if he actually knows Steve or not, because I don't think Sebastian Stan's that great of an actor, and he doesn't play it very well. And it's kind of fun to watch him flop around.
They give him nothing to do in these movies.
I know.
He just runs. He just runs around.
I actually think he's really good in Falcon Winter Soldier, but that's just because he's being snide the whole time and not really doing.
There's a lot more space in Falcon Winter Soldier, though.
But yeah, so if you're coming from Cap's perspective, are you really going to trust any government again to have oversight over you when the last thing you remember is the ones that you trusted had a hand in brainwashing your best friend and making him fight and try to kill you?
But on the reverse side of that, if you think that you're the one that is right and everyone else is wrong,
it's 100% flawed. But he's also a human.
Well,
who has flaws. He thinks he's perfect and he's portrayed as perfect, but I do think he's still right in his own mind.
I almost kind of wish we would have used this for a Dark Cap movie, where he's actually bad and knows it.
You know what it should.
That would have been interesting to me. And then they turn it, maybe have one more movie of his or one more movie that he's in.
We have to title it Iron Man Civil War at that point. Then.
Okay,
that's fine.
Yeah,
you could have just titled you could have just titled it Civil War, and people would have gotten the point. I mean, that's what we refer to it as, anyways.
Yeah.
I was sitting there and I realized when I was watching it, I was like, you know what's a way more interesting thing? If Zemo isn't in it at all. I love Daniel Bruhl. I have nothing against Zemo.
There's my big complaint.
Other than, but if you take Zemo out of the movie and it's literally Bucky does bomb the building, and it's someone controlling him, and Steve has to make that choice. That makes more sense. For a compelling thing, because before it's I don't believe he did it, and then they figure out, oh, he didn't do it.
The problem
he's clear. It's that would have been so
is,
much more interesting if he actually did it.
But the problem with that is that people would then blame Cap.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be this ambiguous thing that it is. I do think that they do the ambiguity of it. You and I have the things that we think.
I also think that the Zemo stuff is a good idea. I think it's just very poorly executed.
It's I can't even list everything that the plan.
It's not detailed very well.
It's a very if this then this.
I think his motivation is solid.
Yeah,
100% solid.
The whole thing with him listening to his wife, that's good.
He's a phenomenal actor.
Scene with T'Challa is great. I love that scene.
And
T'Challa is one of the best parts of the movie.
Even though I don't believe T'Challa would actually flip that quick on his beliefs, I do think it was handled well and acted well. It's kind of crazy that just one little story makes me be like, I forgive you.
You know what would have been better? Here's how I think, again, hindsight 2020, we're three guys in a basement talking about an 8-year-old movie.
Yeah.
But it's not our mom's basement.
It's I think, make it where Zemo is in it and he's trying to tear him apart and he gets the book right away and turns Bucky, runs into him in Romania and makes him do the bombing.
Dude,
so it is Bucky, but it's not his control. But Cap believes, and Bucky tries to tell Cap. So it is a thing of Cap knows, but no one believes him.
I'm still pushing for the what if the book works on Cap somehow, and then we get our Hydra Cap.
Maybe.
Again,
Hydra Cap was a farce in the whole time, anyways. He was undercover.
8-year-old movie or something like that.
Yeah.
So, hindsight.
Yeah, this month, right? Wasn't it a May release?
I think so.
When we're recording this, it's May.
Yeah.
I remember I loved it when it first came out.
I
didn't think about it too hard when it first came out. But
well, you were big Team Cap too, so a completely different change. I remember seeing it in the theater, and the movie got done, and I go, "That's it. They're still friends at the end. What was the point?"
The only thing that really changes is Rhodey now has a disability, except they kind of take that away at the end. Although they did give us Tony Stank.
That was funny.
One of my favorite Stanley cameos, even though it's a little outplayed at this point. I think Don Cheadle really carries that little scene.
Do they ever refer to him as Tony Stank in the MCU ever again?
I think once. I think Rhodey says it.
That's unsettling.
Yeah.
You made a face when I said the Friends thing. Did you have a thought on that?
The Friends thing?
When I said that
they're still friends.
They're still friends at the end.
Oh,
they're undercover.
What was the point?
The
and then you gave me this face. I go, he has something to say, but you didn't.
Not really. No, it wasn't really about that. Just about Civil War in general. I applaud them at the very least for making this movie work. When every hero in this universe's identity is completely known by the world. When that's kind of the whole point of the Civil War comic is unmasking the heroes. I love that this universe doesn't have secret identities, and everybody's just out there.
It was Spider-Man in the comics that was
Spider-Man's
first.
the biggest one. Yep, you had the big one, and then he dies.
No,
amongst the run, I believe, from Crossbones, but it wasn't actually Crossbones.
Does Spider-Man really die in Civil War?
I think it's after Civil War, but it's because of the events of Civil War, I believe.
Because I thought it was Cap that got shot in Civil War.
It is, but I think. Maybe I'm misconstruing two whole different things, but I thought there was a whole thing where Spider-Man gets shot on some stairs, and we think it's Crossbones. Is it Cap?
I think it's Cap.
Okay, like I said,
I haven't read it in so long.
You're probably right.
I think it's Cap.
I think that ended up being a whole Agent 13 maybe did the actual shooting.
The point I was making was if you just end the movie where Cap's just breaking them out of jail. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But him saying, like, hey, Tony, we don't see this. We don't see it the same, but if you ever need me, just call me. And it's like, so what's the point? They still like each other.
Well, technically, at the end, Cap never wanted to fight Tony. He's like, oh, man, get over your mom. That was forever ago. We're good, right?
Get over your mom.
But Martha. Yeah, I think her name's Martha, too, by the way.
It's
Martha
Maria.
Starr. Oh, Maria. I knew it was an M name.
It's close enough. That would have been
Same year,
post.
right?
Would that have been post
Same year.
BBS?
Same year.
Okay.
Like, a month after?
Yeah. Hey, your heroes are fighting each other?
One of the funniest things about watching this movie and the end fight in theaters, because I hadn't seen Iron Man 3. I said this before. Cap does his whole suit goes off, and I go, I think he just freaking killed him.
Well, like, Robert Downey Jr. doesn't do you any favors in that regard because it looks like he's dying.
And then I just remember
pretty well handled. Yeah. I will say that.
But like when he gets stabbed, like the look on his face is like he's like gasping for air. I was like, oh, it kind of looks like he's dying right now.
I just remember thinking, like, did Cap just kill him?
That's all right, Jared.
Because I didn't see the third
I've seen every movie at this point, and when Bucky grabs the arc reactor, I'm like, don't, you'll kill him.
I will say when he starts grabbing it, I'm like, no, get him.
Yeah.
Boom, and his arm goes off. I go, yeah, get him.
Is this the last movie where we hear the noises from the Iron Man suit?
These ones, I believe so. They just changed to more like digitized, very quiet noises. Or like kind of like lightsaber noises at some point, because there was more lasers than there are blasters.
I do wish we had more Iron Man, Ant-Man interactions, because we have two, and they're both making up because one, who is speaking?
Yeah.
And then the other one of, Hank Pym always said never to trust a Stark. Who are you? Come on. But we should talk about the two biggest idiots in this movie.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
No. Ant-Man and Hawkeye, who both have good reasons not to get involved.
Hawkeye did all the smart things in this movie.
Except getting into the fight.
Why was Hawkeye sent to take out Vision? Of all people, why is Hawkeye sent to take out Vision? He got a little electrocution, guys, but it's Hawkeye.
And it didn't even work. It didn't even work. Wanda's the one who...
30 seconds?
Yeah.
If Wanda would have walked with him, they would have had the same issue just a little bit further down the hall.
It was just funny. It's like him when he shows up, I was just like, you're retired. You retired for the sake of your family because you almost died in Sokovia and realized I need to be there for my family and not die. And now I'm going to get into the middle of this fight among friends for no reason.
Well, now we know he may have been pushed by his wife to do it because she's also a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. So maybe she got a call too, and he's like, just go, whatever.
But also, Nat's on the other side.
Also a S.H.I.E.L.D.
The
agent.
Hawkeye show. She's given a watch that has her S.H.I.E.L.D. Badge number on the back of it. It was her watch from when she was at S.H.I.E.L.D.
So
she
I watched
is also
that
Agent 13, which is weird because Emily Van Camp also plays Agent 13.
And Antonio Banderas, that's the 13th Warrior. Never mind.
I thought you were talking about Spy Kids there for a second.
Spy Kids. Anyway, I was going to say, it's like, if you made the argument that Nat would never ask him to unless it was dire, and then she did, sure. She's not even on his side at that point. So it's like
he's not on any side, though.
And nobody's on my side. Yep. Okay.
Basically.
Yeah, Treebeard. But I just remember he shows up, I go, it's literally just to have him in the movie. It makes no sense. It's dumb. And then,
I do enjoy him in the movie. I think he's fun, but yeah, you're right. Why
I don't
are
mind.
you there?
I have no problem with Jeremy Renner. I like
There
Jeremy
are times
Renner.
I have problems with Jeremy Renner's performances, but I think he's really fun in this one. Unlike, again, some of the past ones.
And then the other big idiot, as I mentioned, is Mr. Scott Lang, Ant-Man himself. Spends a whole previous movie, not even like 5 movies ago, last movie, I need to stay clean, not get in trouble, and be there for my daughter. So I can actually, like, be a dad.
Yeah, but if the Avengers come knocking on your door, you're going to say
do you
no?
remember what happened in the last movie, Jared? He gets out of jail for breaking into places and stealing some stuff and tells Hank, the only thing I won't do is to break into places and steal some stuff. And what is that movie, Jared? He does it 3 times, I think.
4
just
times
say-
if you count the part where he put the suit back.
That's true. He did it 4 times. Scott Lang is not a good decision maker. So I agree. He's the
think we-
biggest dummy in this movie.
I think we should admit Paul Rudd is not a good decision maker.
Well, he got paid, so.
That's fair.
And
does
he's
always
one of
get
the
paid.
he's one of the better parts of the movie. The second he showed up and started quipping, I was like, okay, he's the only one I'm going to let quip on this side.
We need to get some coffee in him.
Baby Tom Holland, big fan. His
Oh,
quips.
On that side.
You
I
know-
said that
Oh,
side.
gotcha.
You know that old movie? The one released, I think, in the 80s of Star Wars?
He
with
said
the
Empire. He
snow
said Empire.
thingies?
Yeah.
So you know that really old movie? Empire Strikes Back. How old is this kid, Tony?
Yeah.
And he goes,
I don't know.
"You
I didn't card
know-
him.
You know the big snow things? And it's like,
For me, it's the walkway fight with Bucky and Falcon.
Oh, when he stops
Where you get-
Bucky's
Where the
punch.
one with Falcon.
Like-
So I was like, normally there's not this much talking in fights. Like,
I was going to say there's like an ADR, like, real bad moment because Sam's is fine, but when Bucky's running all like this,
Yep.
what the hell's that? I go, no, that's bad.
Yeah.
But then Sam's is fine where everyone's got a gimmick.
coming from the Birdman.
I will say him catching Bucky's punch is
So
so good.
That's the best acting Sebastian Stan has done in all these
I
movies.
just also...
the look he
You
gives
have
him, like,
metal
wait.
arm? That is so cool. I go, okay. In theaters, I think I laughed and went, okay, I like that. That's just
That-
how strong he
That
is.
scene cemented, like, I'm gonna love Tom Holland in this universe as much as I wish it was Donald Glover at the time.
Fun,
They were putting other Community people in these movies.
I guess.
Yeah, Jim Rash is
Jim
in this
Rash.
movie. When he's talking about the hot dog that
It's my
heats,
favorite-
heats
I didn't
himself.
recognize him when he wasn't cross-dressing.
It's my favorite Community insert in these movies. Like, Danny Pudi's is great. Yvette Brown's is fine.
The elevator. Right?
Yeah,
That's
it's
not till
fine.
later, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's
That's Endgame.
Endgame.
What's
I can't remember
Infinity?
the Infinity War
Oh,
one.
no, there's 2 in Endgame.
Yeah, there is.
Ken John.
Yep.
Ken John. How do you say it?
No, wait, is he? Yeah, that's Endgame because he's in
Ant-Man.
the, yeah.
Ant-Man at the impound place.
I don't remember the Infinity War one, but I believe there is one.
I feel like,
Yeah, but a lot of people,
Who's
including
left?
myself,
Who's left if we have Danny Pudi, Donald Glover?
Jillian Jacobs.
Where would she be?
I don't think she's in them. I also don't think Joel McHale makes an appearance.
Is Annie in him at all?
I don't think so, but it could have been one of the side characters.
I suppose.
Yeah, there's so many
Garrett's in it.
characters. Yeah, like Garrett or Starbird or something.
It's not
Pop.
Garrett. It's Garrett
Garrett Oh,
or
okay.
Neil or Magnitude. Watch it. It's
I
Magnitude.
think wait,
I wonder if it is.
is it maybe Magnitude? I don't remember, but I
I
think
don't
there
feel
is
like
one.
I'd recognize that guy if he wasn't in the Magnitude
I've seen him
character.
in another pop up in one other thing, and I was like, wait, I
Harry
know this-
Potter.
That's what it was. Yeah,
He's commentating on the Quidditch match
yeah.
in
I
the
was
first
rewatching.
movie.
I was like, wait, I know this
That
man.
does not look like the same person.
No, it
I
doesn't.
realize
No.
there's years and years
Yeah.
between those, but
like 10 years.
Yeah. I also want to say, like, I think this is like my favorite overall costumes, specifically Black Panther's costume. I love this so much more than the purple kinetic energy stuff that they put in later costumes. Like, I love it just being straight black. Kind of looks like made out of like Nike material. It's made out of shoe material. It looks
Let's
good.
talk about T'Challa.
Yeah,
He's one of the best parts
One
of this
the-
movie.
So good.
And then ended up being the blandest part of his own movie. Everyone around him in his own movie
He's
is
not
more
bad
interesting.
in this movie.
No,
It's just everybody else is so good.
yeah, I
don't
love
know.
Chadwick
I-
Boseman.
I
but-
really like.
And this movie is where he shines.
Oh,
'Cause
What is her name? His guard, the head of his guard.
Okoye?
That's not Okoye. In
Thought
Civil
you was,
War.
Oh, in Civil War. I thought you meant in Black
Yeah.
Panther.
Yeah,
one-
in Black Panther.
The one that was going to fight.
The one that
Natasha?
says "move" or "be moved."
Yeah, so that's not Okoye. That's T'Chaka's protector. I can't remember her name. She's in the other movies as well. But Okoye is T'Challa's and like guardian, and then she is T'Chaka's
Okay.
direct. Dora Milaje guardian.
I do have a slight question though. T'Chaka is the Black Panther.
Yes,
Before T'Challa inherits it,
correct.
they have a certain level of augmentation to their senses, correct?
To their what?
Senses.
Yes. Yeah.
He could not sense anything amiss when that bomb was going off?
He probably would have sensed it about 10 seconds after T'Challa because he's older and he took the heart-shaped herb so many years ago. That's why T'Challa is currently Black Panther and taking over the mantle. And is while T'Chaka's still king. But yeah, his senses are probably dulled, just like normal senses.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like also like him doing the speech is probably enough to distract him from sensing something out there. Just like when Spider-Man's fighting, if he's focused on one thing, he can easily get caught off guard behind him because he's focused on one thing. But yeah, he does have the enhanced senses.
Okay.
We haven't met. My name's Clint. I don't care.
So
Again, despite everything he does in the movie.
I also love like when they all get stopped at the end of the tunnel, takes off his mask. Your Highness, like was not expecting you to be the one under that mask, but okay.
And then again, the Zemo scene at the end, where he's just like, "Vengeance has consumed you. I'm done letting it consume me."
Yeah, such a good line.
It's a good scene. Just
Martin Freeman in this movie.
2 scenes, but they're great.
He's still great. Yeah.
He's supposed to be. Isn't he related to?
Is he related to Thunderbolt Ross? But they have the same last name.
Okay.
Because he's Everett Ross,
Yes.
right?
I don't believe there's
Isn't he supposed to be in more upcoming ones?
Probably. He'll probably stick with most of the
Thunderbolt-esque
Thunderbolt stuff. Yeah, going forward.
Because he's in the 2 Black Panther movies.
Yeah.
And that's it, I think, right? This movie and then 2 Black Panther movies. I don't think he's been in any show, has he?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I thought he popped up somewhere, but I don't think he has, no.
Because I think, well, the second Black Panther movie, he's basically, what's it called? He's fleeing from the state.
Fugitive.
What is it? Fugitive. Thank you. He's a fugitive of the state because he helps them when he's not supposed to.
Yeah.
So he's kind of taken asylum in
Hanging out with
Wakanda.
Julie Louis-Dreyfus the whole time.
Yeah. So it's like that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's good in these movies.
He's good in everything.
It's
He's
Martin
good in
Freeman.
Yeah.
The dude sounds American. It's so weird to
Yeah.
hear him, but then he also sounds American. It's
Is there only
weird.
2 British people doing American accents in this movie? Maybe more.
Who's the second one?
Tom Holland.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm looking. I'm not seeing anything else.
Also, the introduction to Spider-Man is still so good.
Yeah, that's
Still such a good
so.
scene.
Okay,
To
here's
the point where it feels like it's made by a different director.
You're talking at the apartment
wait.
in
Yeah.
Queens.
This is the Russo brothers who
It
did
is.
this. Yeah. So I have not a hot take on this movie, but my opinion is this is the originator of the argument of the MCU is all about moments, because that is all this movie is. It's just a loosely strung together plot of moments.
To bring all the characters together and then have them fight each other at the airport and then the end
Which
fight.
is really sick, don't get me wrong.
That's fun.
But
It's not my favorite fight. I think I like the end fight better than the airport fight.
where
It's just
Iron
there's
Man's
more
getting the
emotion behind
snot
it, and I
beaten
also
out of
like
him.
them fighting like up the different levels and stuff.
yeah.
But still,
I guess
real
I don't
good.
blame you for that, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Because
still real good.
you do get then moments like when Ant-Man gets big and then Paul Rudd is going, ha 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 ha. I did laugh.
or can I get some orange slices? That did make me laugh.
I also I like whenever we get to see War Machine's other weapons instead of just the chain going down his shoulder. He's like bringing out this little sword thing.
Oh,
and stuff like that.
yeah.
Like,
This
that's
isn't
cool to
gonna
see what
kill
other
you,
tools he's
but
got
it's
in here,
certainly
yeah.
gonna hurt.
It's not gonna feel good, Cap.
Oh, the moment when his suit goes off and it fades to just
the free fall. Yeah,
that was actually I was like,
How
oh,
did
that
he
ooh.
only get paralyzed from that? You gotta imagine that would have killed him.
I don't know, but yet again, it's another one of those. Suit failed him, so what do? We put a parachute in the next one. Spidey gets a parachute in his next suit. I do love that through line of anytime something fails with Stark's equipment, the next movie we get to see him correct that. Sometimes the same movie. We get to see a correction of that that's directly tied to that failure.
I do like how when Rhodey goes down, is starting to fall. Sam turns around. I always like that. That of course I always laugh when Tony shoots him.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Even with his floating head.
I'm sorry.
It's such a weird kind of moment because it's like, for the past 20 minutes, these people have been pitted against each other. And it's a very serious moment when Rhodey gets injured, and then it's capped by that.
Oh, I take that as a serious moment. I take that as a
He's
a kid
mad.
running up, sorry, and just slamming the door on him kind of thing.
Oh, I always took it as kind of a joke.
Oh, I always
to
think
end
Oh,
the
he's
series.
he's mad when he does it.
Yeah, I think it's a come closer and this would be a lot bigger of a blast type situation. Like, how dare you come near us after what we just went through?
It is kind of funny how they fight and do all that fighting, and then something like that happens, and it is like, oh no, not Rhodey. But then you realize they all could have killed each other earlier.
But they're all pulling their punches. Except for Wanda. She's throwing cars at people.
I mean,
She
Wanda,
needs to chill out. Like,
Wanda is out
that's
of...
one thing I'll agree with the government on. She is unhinged and out of control.
Wanda is out of hand in
out
almost
of pocket the whole movie.
every single moment that she's in this universe.
As a comic book lover, you have no idea the joy I had when they started the romantic subplot of Wanda and Vision in this.
People thought it was weird when this movie came out.
And how confused the general audience was by it. When
Oh,
I was like,
remember.
you guys have no idea how crazy this relationship gets.
Oh, people
In the comics, are her powers created by the Mind Stone? Like
No,
they
she's
are?
a mutant. She is Magneto's kid.
Yep.
That's right. I said that already.
Yep.
I knew
Yeah,
that.
she is one of the strongest
So-
mutants.
So, I always thought that she just was a mutant until this watch through, and they kind of said her powers were created by the Mind Stone.
So a lot of people,
They said it in
myself,
Ultron too.
I don't think.
I didn't hear it.
I actually don't think her
One
powers
line.
were recreated by the cube. I think they were enhanced. The theory is the reason the Stark bomb didn't go off and they sat there for a whole 3 days looking at that thing going off is because of her willing it to not go off and her abilities basically stopping it from blowing up. Just not under her control, but because she has reality manipulating powers, a lot of people think that's why it didn't go off for 3 days. And then the stone just enhanced it. They kind of showed her what her powers were. And in the show, WandaVision, you kind of get a little bit more of that when Agatha's talking about it. Like, you were born to be the Scarlet Witch. Like, you were the destined one. So the powers have always been there. But the stone definitely enhanced them and gave her a leg up.
I need to go back and watch WandaVision.
Good show, except for the weird laser fight at the end that it
You
turns
mean
into.
White Vision versus Red Vision?
I love that. The ship of Theseus scene, so good. I love that the whole fight is just a...
White Vision is
Think about this.
White Vision is an actual thing in the comics, right?
So much so that the 90s, that's all you got. Every video game that had the Vision in it, and there was a lot, he was the cream White Vision, and he was disgusting looking.
Are they going to do more of them in the MCU, you think?
I'm sure of it. Yeah.
It kinda
Paul Bettany's honestly too good in that role not to.
It kind of gave me Silver Surfer vibes. I know that it
A
wouldn't
lot
be
of people thought
connected,
that,
but
yeah. No, White Vision is just Vision without emotion. He's pure robot. Pure analytical.
I just going back to the
one
whole
might say the true Ultron.
going back
Is that what comic you
going back to the whole relationship thing. I remember people at the time like that felt so forced and weird, and in my mind I'm like, it makes sense to me. I mean the thing on his forehead,
basically created her at this point. We
Yeah.
thought that, yeah.
and so but then they're like, and I remember people we know.
I mean,
You did not like Vision at this point. It was pre-Infinity War. They did not like
Second he
Vision.
popped up, I love that character. I think
Oh.
Paul Bettany's been so good, start to finish with his
When,
character.
once I saw him in Ultron, I go, this guy's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's Paul Bettany. I love Paul Bettany. And then in Civil War, you watch it, I'm like, yeah, I like Vision. I don't know why people don't like Vision. And then you get to Infinity War, and a lot of people turn to liking him because
Because they made him look human when they were doing the romance stuff.
because they murked him.
Yeah, that too. The whole movie was kind about him.
that is a weird murking, too.
It's a brutal one.
When he pinches his skull in.
No.
A skull.
No, Wanda explodes
Yeah,
him.
the fact that she
And then
has
he-
Oh,
she
okay.
kills him
'Cause that's the
and then
I
he's
love
like,
you.
Let me undo that.
Yeah, he blows up, and you're already like, huh, and then just
Yeah.
he just backs it up. You go, and then just
And I love how people
then
are like,
we
this came out
wonder
of
what-
nowhere. It's like, really? Because he's the one that saved her in Sokovia. Like, and they had a little moment there as they're flying out of the bus.
and with the stone, there's a connection.
Yep,
She
yeah.
can control him.
It's actually seated way better than it is in the
She
comics.
said, but she said that like way in the beginning when she first saw the box with him in it. Like, I can feel that. Like, what's
Yeah, we're connected. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's been seeded since the moment we knew about Vision, but I get it's a kind of a drastic turn just to see them, like,
it's
flirting with each other in the kitchen.
but like it's hard.
Looking for paprika.
I think it's hard when you have to do this in movies and they're not main characters, so you have to do this in like 5-minute increments.
Yeah.
Okay, him walking through the wall. Just, Viz, we talked about this. Well,
Oh, so he does that a lot, huh?
doesn't he say like, well, the door was open, he came in, so I assumed it was okay.
And it's sound thinking on that part, Vision. You're like, what? I mean, I was welcomed. I also every time
he phased
Vision in like regular clothes. It's always so adorable. It's so cute.
When he phases through Scott, that's funny. Again, another
A guy
Paul
just
Rudd.
went through me.
Oh.
Also, for how hard they are about, we cause so much destruction. They wreck the hell out of that airport. Vision specifically. He takes
Luckily,
out air traffic control, the air traffic control tower with his mind.
I do love Scott throwing the fire. The gas truck.
I thought that was a
I
water
thought it was
truck.
My bad.
I thought it was a water truck.
I
will
will see
say-
Rhodey almost dying in an explosion.
So now I think like Vision is pretty fast when he flies. He kind of flew it
Yeah.
and saved Wanda in the last movie we saw him. So instead of just flying straight over to Cap and Bucky, who will take a minute or two to get into the Quinjet, and is a Quinjet, right?
Yeah.
And take off. He just it's like just fly over there, just shoo, and stop him. There's like the only person who can stop you is Wanda, and she's too busy throwing cars out of the garage.
Holding up the air traffic control tower that you just knocked over.
But, so my thinking is, Tony got them all there. He made sure it was evacuated. He probably planned on paying for any damages going forward.
I mean,
he did just pay for every single college kid's project.
he
with
also
no question.
he also paid for that one building that they wrecked with the Hulk during the fight in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
While that fight was
Yeah,
happening.
exactly. That's kind of his MO. Is like, you just can't replace the lives, unfortunately. Yeah, he's getting there. My other big gripe of this movie, besides Zemo's existence,
Is
is
it-
Zemo's mask. I haven't talked about that. I hate the last Captain America movie. We have these fancy masks that go over your face and it can turn into anybody you want
and sound like them
and
too.
sound like them and age your entire body to be a 50-year-old woman and not Scarlett Johansson. But Zemo uses rubber prosthetics. Why? We have much better technology out there, Zemo. You can get it. You got anything else?
The Red
in this
Skull used rubber prosthetics.
movie? In the 40s.
So
Again, I think the more interesting movie is if Bucky actually did it through a mind control. So it's like, but no one knows that for sure. Instead, it's like, but it was Zemo all along.
Yeah, but then we have to
But
lock
he-
up Bucky for killing people, even if he's
Oh,
mind-washed.
no! Now he's not going to be a character in a jail cell.
or instead of killing all the super soldiers, we release them on the world.
That was another thing. It's like, man, that's such a cool thing. And I know, and Zemo
There's-
doing it makes sense. But man, they build that up to be cool, and then it's nothing.
That's like my favorite part of that is like, I was so excited to see them fight all these dudes, and then you show there's like, you got me. Usually these twists don't get me.
Could you imagine if they cut out a lot of the unnecessary stuff in the front half,
There's too
and
many
then you make it,
different plots.
and then you make it where they have to team up to fight the baddies, and they defeat them, and then they start fighting each other because then the secret is let out. You could have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, I actually think I like this better.
I
don't think I wanted to see them fight them. I think I like the idea of it, but we already showed that they can take on Bucky by himself.
Well, yeah,
But he's not by himself.
they already.
But there's also 6 of them.
Those super soldiers.
But there's 3
already,
of the others.
Those super soldiers already wrecked Bucky. Just
Yeah, so
wrecked him.
1v1 Bucky can't handle him. This is putting them in a 2v1 situation, 2v1 plus Zemo. That's gonna be another airport fight where we have to sit there for 45 minutes.
Get rid
this
of the
movie
airport
cannot
fight
be
and do
another.
that.
No.
You're getting rid of the best character moments for all these characters.
So I know I don't like this movie as a sum of its own parts, but I like the parts. That is the most fun part of this movie.
I think it's the Peggy Carter funeral. And the fact that it takes 2 days for Cap to start making out with her niece.
Oh my gosh, that's right. That's such an awkward thing that gets dropped.
Her niece, or is it his niece?
That's the other thing. What theory do we go with? Did Cap he's been the husband all along?
I personally go with that theory. However, at the time we did not know it, so I won't fault him for that.
All I've got to say is nothing else in the universe changed when Cap came back old, and we know he was with Peggy. So in my theory, he had to have been with her the whole time in this universe. Otherwise,
Which
he probably
means
never
he's
would've
related to her.
that is his niece that he is hooking up with. How does that make you feel, Jared?
Ugh.
I want. See, you made an argument for an old Cap movie. I think in the first Cap podcast. The more we watch, the more I want that.
I want Joe Biden
that.
with the shield.
But I want it to be. But I also want it to be Chris Evans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I want the old man makeup that he got in Endgame. Put him in that and put him in a movie.
Or like a movie that just chronicles his time as Peggy's husband.
Yeah.
To both confirm that theory and also.
And the whole first scene is him walking down the stairs, one step at a time, nice and slow. That's the opening credits. Just
see, you say that. I want him to one of those little things, the railing scooters that
I was
take you down
I was
the
gonna say
stairs.
I want more up and less mobility.
Oh, he's sitting on the shield, sliding down slowly, scooting.
But then, if he was the husband the whole time, wouldn't he have been at the funeral?
He was at the funeral. He was a pallbearer.
Twice at the funeral, I mean.
2 pallbearers.
Well, he can't be there if his younger self's there. It's a paradox.
We both
Inception.
We also don't know that old Cap didn't die pre-Endgame. Because he still had his time travel device. He could have, I guess... I'm going to die soon. Let me go give the shield over to Sam before I go.
The MCU...
And that's why he didn't want to tell Sam about it, because he didn't remember anything about it.
The MCU would pull some bullshit like that.
He died a year before that, but he had to travel forward to give him the shield.
I know I've been kind of... I wouldn't say a hater, but disliking of this movie. I will admit that I had fun. Like, it's similar to Ant-Man in that its highs are really fun, but its lows are also kind of like, well, that's kind of stupid. And like I said, it's not greater than the sum of its parts.
It's about moments.
Yes.
It's created for people to go onto YouTube to like movie clips and look up scenes.
I'd agree with that statement.
I disagree. I think it's a very well-made movie that just happens to have a lot of very good, memorable moments.
I think that it's a movie that's made to be a culmination of what's come before it, obviously. And I think in that manner, it is not fully fleshed out like a normal movie would be because it can rely on its history.
I will say this is a movie that skips a lot of beats that most movies would take. Because it's one of the few times this early on that they kind of expect you to have watched all the movies. They kind of want you to kind of go in knowing the relationships all these people have with each other, all their feelings towards each other up to this point,
and
when their history beyond each other.
And back when this was happening, that was possible. Now it's not so
Yeah,
possible.
if you put this movie out now, half the audience wouldn't know what's going on. But then, like, you didn't need to explain anything because everybody's seen the other 8 movies that came before it. And back then, I appreciated that so much because we started to finally lose some of the filler. But then there's a lot of people who need that filler. I do think when you watch these movies as its own thing, later on, that filler would be nice to have. Some of those things would be nice to have in here to string some stuff together. I just don't think you needed it back then in the environment we were in when this was released. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think that this movie would be served better if you cut out one of the plot lines and just focused.
Nemo.
Probably.
Yeah.
And just
as much as I
focused.
love Brule, I agree.
And just focused on the division between the two factions. And then actually had them stay apart.
Because the other thing is when you have someone kind of stirring the pot and setting it all up to split, it's kind of less interesting. Instead of it being a natural thing where this group of people just cannot agree, it's like, no, it's not even like fully their fault. It's someone else who's behind it all. It's like it kind of takes a lot of responsibility off of them also for why it happens.
And like I get, like we're supposed to think that they've been a ticking time bomb this whole time. At least Steve and Tony.
We're a time bomb.
At least Tony and Steve were a time bomb.
I mean, yeah, that conflict was going to happen.
Yeah, but using Zemo, or at least how they use Zemo to light that fuse, so poorly done that like at this point, like you say, it's just better just to take it out of the movie and find a better way to set off that bomb.
You could have honed the story better with that extra space.
Yeah, just make it about these Sokovia Accords. You don't need to have Zemo there at all. Just have them disagree about the Accords. It's a big enough thing for them to disagree on.
I do think it's fair to say that you don't need to tell us that people died in Sokovia more than once. And they did that once within the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
What else was I going to say? I don't remember.
I was going to say back on the filler thing. It's back to, I think we've said it before. The old days of TV shows having like 20-some episodes and half of it's filler. Yeah, I don't want to go back to that. No. The problem becomes now TV seasons are so short and there's no filler, which again, I don't like filler, but I also recognize that sometimes time spent is important.
And also sometimes your filler episode becomes the best episode of the franchise, according to the fan base. Don't Blink with Doctor Who.
Or is it just Blink?
Blink, sorry, yeah. I think of something else, but Don't Blink.
That's Keanu Reeves.
Yeah. Blink is a filler episode that is what most people start people on Doctor Who on.
Beard After Hours and Ted Lasso is my favorite episode.
It's one of my favorite
People do not like it because it's filler, but I love it.
I would not call it a filler episode, but the board game episode in Community with the rolling.
Exactly.
I don't know that it's filler so much.
Well, it's more of a bottle episode.
Yeah.
Than a filler, but most bottle episodes are filler episodes.
But I wouldn't say Community has filler episodes because it's not supposed to be watched like every single episode in a row. Like
I think those first couple of seasons were. I would argue
loosely. It's because it's comedies. They're more episodic in that way.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Like if you jump around seasons, things won't make sense if you haven't seen it before. But it's a little different when it's not one big overarching story.
Yeah, kind of like The Office, where like every episode's its own thing, but there's a through line that you could follow if you want to, but it's so not necessary for the single episode that it's going to take you out of it.
It's like the Fly episode of Breaking Bad, which is a bottle episode. That was a budgetary limitation, and it doesn't really do anything for the story, but it has a couple character moments that are nicely added in there. Mm-hmm. We spend times with characters in a setting, and that's what is sorely missed from a lot of shows now is there's no time to get to know things and let things naturally progress because it's like, oh, no one likes filler, let's cut it out completely. And as much as I hate filler, it makes you appreciate the bigger episodes. I don't need 10 episodes of filler, but...
Are you saying that if we were to get, say, a 10-episode season of The Mandalorian, maybe, and like 4 episodes of those were filler, and 6 were the actual, like, meat and potatoes?
I say if, like, the first 2, the last 2, and, like, 2 right in the middle were, like, the big important ones, and you spread out, like, little adventures he goes on, because that's kind of how the show works.
Except for that it doesn't, because there's only 8 episodes, and they have to...
Yeah.
With that show, you often feel like you missed stuff.
Yeah.
Because they reference it, but it didn't actually happen on camera.
Yep, and if you have 2 extra hours, you can spread things out. I think 10 is a perfect season length. I really do, and...
I still kind of wish they would have made the Book of Boba Fett part of The Mandalorian Season 2.
It is. It's half of that show is The Mandalorian. What are you talking about?
That's fair.
Yeah, that's what I think is the problem with TV shows is they don't allow time spent anymore because, people don't like filler? No more filler. It's
but we're also not talking about TV shows. We're talking
we
about
are.
Civil War.
The MCU is a TV show.
I actually think this
fair.
Civil War as a concept I think would have been better as a TV show where maybe you spend 1-2 episodes with each set of characters.
It does
you see how the Accords affect them, and then you get a big movie at the end, kind of bringing it all together.
So it does a similar sort of thing that they do with those the comics.
Yeah, in the comics, Civil War weaved its way through every current running Marvel comic.
How long did it take to get them to the big Civil War main story?
I dropped off. I never finished Civil War because of all of the weaving in and out of all the comics I never read.
I wonder if there's an omnibus with all of it.
There is. I think there is. I have the Runaways Civil War line because I was reading the Runaways at the time, but that doesn't connect the whole story. But it would have been nice with these. If we had Disney Plus running then, I think they probably would have done something like that. But I think this would have been better.
Oh gosh, this does exist in a timeline before Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Which is weird to think because it's not that long before. It's just a couple years.
It does.
2019, right?
But it definitely changes how they approached all of this. And I think Civil War would have been one that would have been really good to do a movie for it, but also weave it through the shows.
Yeah.
Because if we had that connecting Infinity War, where we saw why they're still apart, what everybody's been doing, instead of just a rapid catch-up in Infinity War, I think it would have been really nice to kind of weave it all together.
Superheroes and Star Wars and stuff just works better in the TV format.
Yeah.
It really
I think
does.
it's 'cause
There's
it's
so
shorter.
much to handle.
Yeah, unless it is like one-off stuff where it's contained within a movie, or like the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Each movie is self-contained, but you do need the other movies to understand. It's like, that's a good example because it's just those three used to be.
Yeah.
But now, because there's so many things connected, it is just a TV show.
Yep.
But yeah, it works better in the episodic nature because you have more time. And when people who are more TV fans and movie fans, that's one of the cases they make, is more time, and you have it's just more time with characters, more times to set up things. And I always say, yeah, but then you put in 80 hours of investment just to, and imagine the ending's bad, all to build up to nothing.
Usually they are.
He put in 80 hours, probably 20 hours of investment just to see Lana getting taken up in a tornado in a car. And then Clark running into the tornado.
You didn't even get to all the really bad stuff yet, Jared.
Oh no, I'm in the beginning of season 1, like episode 4, season 2, episode 4. Took me like 3 years to watch season 1.
I'm gonna be very frank with you here. A lot of that show is very bad. I love it so much.
So good. It's so good because of how bad it is.
But like, it doesn't start getting really bad until like after season 6.
There's bad throughout. But it does get really, really bad around there.
Yeah.
It took me a while to come back to it to finish because of how bad it started getting. Yeah.
When you start getting into the doomsday plot, that's bad.
I do love that actor, though.
Yeah, that dude is cool.
Yeah, Civil War. I love this movie. Big time Stan, big time fan.
Sebastian Stan,
Yeah.
who is Romanian. And spoke one of his native languages in that scene where he's getting, what is that, a plum?
Yeah.
I go, that's a nice little touch. Man, this would be more interesting if he actually bombed the building.
They do bring Zemo back for
Captain Falcon.
Captain Falcon.
One of the best parts of that show. He's so good in that show.
He's the only MCU villain that they've actually brought back, other than Loki, which I don't
They
count.
brought back Red Skull.
Didn't they bring back Abomination?
They bring back Abomination and She-Hulk.
I didn't bother myself with that show.
I think it's my favorite of the shows.
Trevor Slattery.
Does he count as a villain?
I mean, he basically played a terrorist just for money.
Yeah.
Fair.
For the role of a lifetime. I'd call
Okay.
that a villain. He's funny, but he's a villain.
Villains come back all the time, Jake. Thanos was in like 5 movies.
Wanda became a villain?
That doesn't
Then a
count.
hero, then a villain.
How does that not count?
Do you
She
think
started as a villain?
She started as a villain, and then
Yeah.
she wasn't, and then she is
Came back
again.
as a villain.
And people still take her side in that movie. I'm like,
How?
she's mad. She kills a
We
bunch of
watched an
people
entire
because of
TV show explaining why we shouldn't take her side in this
yeah.
movie.
She killed a bunch of people because of her fake sons.
I can't wait till we get there. There's so much I love about that movie for being.
Do you think they're done with
John
her
Water.
story?
No. They're just waiting to bring Magneto into it to work him in somehow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Bring Aaron Taylor. Bring Evan Peters in again. Bring both of them back.
Who would they get to play Magneto? Michael Fassbender. I would love that, actually.
Mickey Rourke.
And they make it rated R, and just like in Sin City, he rips someone's scrotum off.
I'm so down.
That's a rough scene to watch in Sin
They
City.
make metal prosthetics for those.
It doesn't feel the same.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. How are you sure?
Well, a couple years. I'm kidding. Oh, now I'm thinking about that scene and where he just.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
ah.
I love that movie so much, but Sin City 2 is so bad. It's so bad.
I didn't even bother with.
I got about an hour into it, and I was like, I'm just gonna turn this off. I'm not enjoying this one bit. But also rest in peace to not only Chadwick Boseman, but William Hurt.
Yep.
And was there a third one in this movie that's also past since filming? I don't think so. I think it's just 2 in this one. But when I saw him pop, I was like, I forgot William Hurt's in this movie. Aw. I mean, it's gonna be nice to see Harrison Ford see his take on this, but I've loved William Hurt throughout these movies. He is so fun to watch.
Why do they gotta hire such old actors?
General Ross is an old man.
Yeah, but like, why hire actors
to match that? Because any old white man works. You just put a mustache on them. They all look the same.
Well, then put a mustache on Jared.
Plus, I'm pretty sure
I have a mustache.
Put a white mustache on Jared.
I'm pretty sure by the end of New World Order, we're getting Red Hulk. So.
Oh, that'd be fun.
We're going to see Harrison Ford be a Hulk with a mustache. No, actually, I think the mustache goes into his lip when he turns into the Hulk, if I remember correctly.
That's it. They get Justin Hammer out of jail, and he runs into Ross, and they look at each other and go, "Haven't I seen you before?"
Do you know
Cowboys
how
and Aliens
I want to
reference?
see those two interact in this movie, this franchise?
Because of Cowboys and Aliens?
Yeah.
He turns to some kid and goes, "Be a man."
Just like I wanted to see Josh Brolin interact with Michael Fassbender because of Jonah Hex. Like, I just want to see these people who did old comic book movies that were terrible reprise it in good ones.
What if we get Ben Affleck's Daredevil back into the MCU?
Please. Like, leave Jennifer Gardner out of it. Although 13 going on 30 reunion would be nice with her and Ruffalo. Yeah, no.
Hey, your favorite guy, Ruffalo.
Oh, yeah.
But I love Ben Affleck is... Yes, because then we get Jon Favreau as not Happy Hogan, but Foggy Nelson.
Yeah.
So we get to have him be in the movies again. Seeing how he doesn't have a connection to anybody anymore. Seeing how Tony's dead, Aunt May's dead. Nobody knows who Spider-Man is. Why do we have a reason for Happy anymore? That's so sad.
I will say that is probably the saddest an MCU movie has ever made me at that moment where you realize, because they play it like he knows who he is, and then it dawns on you and you're like, oh no.
When I realized Happy had nobody left, I was distraught. All he has is Pepper.
Yeah, and the kid.
Oh, that's true. There's Morgan. I mean, who wants to hang out with Pepper all the time? Actually, I kind of like Feltro with these movies, as much as I don't like her as a person.
So the reason we don't see her is because of all the contract stuff, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think she was in the middle of her goop stuff going on. Yeah.
And
she also never cared about these movies.
This movie is like 2 years after her divorce from Chris Martin, too.
I believe so, yeah. So, yeah, she was going through it.
That's right.
It would have been nice to see her, like her interactions with Coulson are some of my favorites in those early movies. But
Coulson was dead at this point.
Yeah, but like, I would have liked
was
to see
he
her
dead
interact
again
with
at this
some more of these
moment?
people.
Was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. done? So he was still alive?
Coulson was resurrected literally immediately after the first Avengers movie came out. Like, I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. came out weeks after Avengers. So we wouldn't forget who Coulson was. But yeah, they resurrected him immediately. I mean, he was alive during Winter Soldier because he was there when S.H.I.E.L.D. fell in the show. That was like episode 11 or something.
Sorry,
I think he died twice in that show, too.
Yep.
Well, that's how a TV show works. At the end of the season, someone dies, or you think that they die, or they're
bad,
or they get buried, and then the new season opens, and Superman looks into the grave, and
I knew what I was like, is he talking about Smallville?
You don't understand. I love that show.
Once I watched it, I was like, is this a Smallville? I think I remember this.
I was trying to be very careful about it because I don't want to spoil it for someone who's going to watch it in 10 years or so.
It's like when you introduce something like, well, it's like that old story about, and you like badly explain a movie plot, but so discreetly that they don't get it. And sometimes the best way to do it is about 3 sentences in, they figure it out, like, oh, I know what he's doing. If I did it the other day to someone, I got like 6 sentences in and stopped, and they're just staring at me. I go, oh, I'm making this up. They go, what? And I go, this is a movie. And they go, oh, what movie? I tell them, they go, oh, yeah, it is. I go, come on.
I've been on the receiving end of that, and it always feels so bad.
Sorry, I think I've probably done that
after the fact, but right in that moment when you're like you realize, or you have to be told, it's just like, oh,
it's usually
dumb.
Sentence 1 is grounded. Sentence 2 is a little less grounded, and by sentence 3, you say something either specific or outlandish that can only be the movie, and that's when the moment happens. The light bulb, and they go.
Exactly. By sentence 3, you're on an RC car strapped to a cowboy, ready to chase that moving van. And if they don't believe you, if they still believe you at that point, that's on them.
Yeah, for like this one to be like, well, you see,
I don't
it's
know
like
how you
there's many
couldn't.
moments in history of that. Like
Exactly,
there's
it's on
there's a civil war going on once, amongst all the civil wars.
Gettysburg?
And a bunch of friends, close friends, were
Gettysburg.
That is a civil war. Yes, good job, Jake. And it's like what else would you say? And then one of them, they got just real big and real, just full of themselves. And
and Dances
people could
with Wolves.
see right through them. That was after the Civil War, wasn't it?
Jesse Plemons.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it would be. Like you keep going.
Yeah, you end up like Luis. You're just telling that tale until they figure it out.
Is he only in those two?
I don't think
Is he
he's
in the third one at all?
What purpose would he serve in that third one?
He doesn't need a purpose. He's Luis. He's wonderful.
Honestly, you know what would have been great in that third movie? To break up all of the
If
quantum
he was
realm?
MODOK?
If he was looking for Scott around the house, we get to see him hanging out with the ants and just like talking to the ants as if he could talk to them, but he doesn't understand anything that's going on. But we would just randomly check in with Luis, looking around the house like, Scott, you here? Looking in like tiny little places for him, as if he's like Ant-Man at the time. Like,
Or what if he was
opening up little
like
pockets?
narrating it? That would have been pretty funny.
Or if he's like, explaining to the cops where Scott is because they don't believe him that he's not there or something, and he's just telling a different tale every time. And he's going on this crazy thought path. Like, there's ways you could have implemented him in there and made it a good movie, or at least gooder,
More passable.
watchable.
Isn't it? Is it not watchable? I've only seen it once.
We'll get there.
Watch it be the one that we love and he hates.
I don't think it's. Actually, I've seen people say they love Quantumania. I don't think it's possible for a sane human to love that movie.
I think for a name like Quantumania, I wish we'd have had a better movie.
You mean like Multiverse of Madness? Where
For
very
a,
little madness in far too few multiverses.
It's the most boring universes too.
there was more multiverses in No Way Home than there was in Multiverse of Madness, wasn't there?
Yes.
And that was basically Pokemon in live action.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Good movie. 10 out of 10. Not really, like 6 out of 10, but enjoy this movie a lot.
Are we ready?
Yeah, I'm done.
All
done
right.
talking
So
about
now, before we give the outro, I'm going to introduce a new segment that I just literally decided to start.
I feel like you're going to make me say something.
I am going to make
You're
you
gonna
say
ask me a question or
I am
something.
going to ask you a
How
question.
did I know?
It's called Has Nick Watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yet? Because I know that every single time after I watch a Marvel movie on Disney Plus, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is queued up next, and it suggests it. So, Nick, have you started Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this week?
I did not, but it's because I own both of these movies and I watched the Blu-rays.
The segment will continue. Until then,
I mean, I've seen
Jared,
Agents of
where are we
S.H.I.E.L.D.
going?
Why would I start? I've seen like the first 6 seasons.
You
Why would
watched
I
Madam Web 10 times.
That movie is a masterpiece in how not to make a movie.
So
Same
what's
with-
wrong with watching
They should
Agents
teach
of
it.
S.H.I.E.L.D.?
They
Like
should
I said a couple weeks ago,
Make-
I've also seen Space Jam Legacy more than 10 times. That movie is barely a movie. I love it.
we need to figure out one of the good friends of the podcast, Hammy. We need to figure out his teacher's name so we can go suggest them to make him watch it in that class.
Oh, he's done with that class.
Okay, his next class.
His next class, all right.
We should get together and watch Madam Web together so I can talk. I can Mystery Science Theater it and tell you why it's amazing. I feel like 5 seconds in you'll know. But
That would be
One-
kind of funny to film us
one
watching
name,
that.
Ezekiel. He makes the whole movie. The villain doesn't say a word the whole movie. It's all ADR. Every single line ADR.
Well, because he doesn't have.
No.
He has a mask,
no,
right?
No. We barely see him in the mask. It's just his face the whole time. Most of the time, he's not moving his lips, but he's talking.
Interesting.
There's at least 3 times I can count where you can clearly see his face and his lips aren't moving, but his voice is there.
And they canceled Batgirl.
And Acme versus Warner.
Anyway, until we continue down this journey and we find out next week whether or not Nick started
What is
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
We'll get there.
where can they find us?
You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and the funny TikTok and X.
Formerly known as Twitter.
You can listen to us on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and hey, if it's YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, ring our bell, and hey, make sure you rate us and like us on all those apps and check out our groovy website.
All right, and if you want to continue down this road and get more phased out with us, next week we're watching. I don't even know. What are we watching?
Do you know what's next? The other 2016 MCU movie.
Guardians 2.
Nope, that's 2017.
Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Ooh,
Let's go. That's a good one.
I like
Jared
Doctor
Tuinstra.
Strange. That's top 5 MCU for me pretty
Agreed.
easily.
It's one, again, I think it's probably the best Iron Man remake that we have. Easily.
And as a person with a disability, it frustrates me. Tune in next week to find out why. Until then, have a great day.
And getting up to the, and I know the guy working the register, and he just stares at me, and I go,
You have a problem,
Sound-
Jared? Are you huffing this?
I go, hi Connor, we're soundproofing. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, and then the next week I walk in, and he goes, you're not done? I go, no.
I would have immediately be like, Jared, do you have a problem we need to discuss?
We didn't even use it all. You know where our last pack is? How would that be blackmail?
Leave the job.
I'll
Mutually
work
assured
for you.
destruction.
You just need to go get it diagnosed so you can actually get treated for it.
Funny you think about that, Jake. I don't have insurance!